Danny Cole checked the medical supplies for the third time that morning. He liked to keep everything in order. As the only human medic aboard the diplomatic vessel Starward Hope, he felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. This was the most important mission humanity had ever attempted. They were going to meet the Empire and sign a peace treaty that would change history. They were an ancient species. They had traveled among the stars for thousands of years before humans even discovered fire. Their skin was silver like polished metal, and their bodies carried beautiful markings that glowed with soft blue light. They were powerful and proud, and they looked at humans the way a professor might look at a child trying to solve a simple math problem. Danny did not mind their attitude. He had volunteered for this mission because he believed in peace. He believed that all living beings deserved kindness, no matter how they looked or where they came from. His mother had taught him that back home in Ohio, and he carried those words in his heart across the stars. The ship hummed quietly as it traveled through space. Captain ran a tight crew, and everyone knew their duties. Ambassador Gregor spent most of his time preparing for the negotiations. He was a patient man with gray hair and tired eyes, but he smiled whenever he talked about the treaty. The delegation had arrived 2 days ago. There were 12 of them, led by Princess herself. She was the heir to the throne, and her presence showed how seriously her people took this meeting. Danny had only seen her from a distance. She was tall and graceful, with silver skin that seemed to catch every light in the room. Her markings glowed a deep ocean blue, and her eyes were the color of pale amber. She was beautiful in a way that felt almost unreal. But she was also cold. Whenever she looked at the human crew members, her face showed nothing. Not hatred, not curiosity, not warmth, just nothing. Danny understood. To her, humans were newcomers. They had only been traveling among the stars for 100 years. They were bobbies compared to the Princess traveled with her younger brother, Prince, and her spiritual guardian, High Priestess Aura. The priestess was old, with markings that had faded to a gentle silver glow. She watched everything with sharp eyes and said very little. Prince was the opposite. He was young and loud and made no effort to hide his dislike for humans. He called them primitive when he thought no one was listening. On the 5th night of the journey, Captain organized a ceremonial dinner in the observation deck. The room had massive windows that showed the stars stretching endlessly in every direction. Tables were set with food from both Earth and the. It was supposed to be a celebration of friendship and hope. Danny was not invited to the dinner. He was just a medic, not a diplomat. But he stayed close to the medical bay in case anyone needed him. He sat at his desk and read through xenobiology files on his tablet. He had been studying physiology since the mission began. Their biology was fascinating. Their blood was not red like human blood. It was silver, and it carried not just oxygen but also electrical signals that helped their nervous system function. Without their blood, their bodies would shut down in minutes. He was reading about blood types when the ship shook violently. The lights flickered. Alarms began screaming through the corridors. Danny grabbed his medical kit and ran toward the observation deck. He pushed through crew members who were rushing in every direction. When he reached the deck, he saw chaos. The windows on the far side had shattered. Emergency shields had sealed the breach, but the damage was done. Microdebris from a passing asteroid field had struck the ship at high speed. Shrapnel had torn through the room like angry wasps. Bodies lay on the floor. Some were moving, some were not. Danny went to work immediately. He checked pulses and applied pressure to wounds. He shouted orders to crew members who stood frozen in shock. Then he saw her. Princess lay near the center of the room. A metal fragment the size of his hand was buried in her torso. Silver blood poured from the wound and spread across the floor in a growing pool. Her markings were flickering like a dying candle. High Priestess Aura knelt beside her, pressing her hands against the wound. Tears streamed down the old woman's face. Prince stood nearby, his expression twisted with fear and anger. Danny ran to them and dropped to his knees beside the princess. He examined the wound quickly. It was bad. The shrapnel had torn through major blood vessels. She was losing blood faster than her body could handle. She needs a transfusion, Danny said. Now, where are your medical supplies? Do you have blood reserves? Aura shook her head. We brought none. We did not expect danger on a diplomatic vessel, and blood cannot be replicated. It must come from a living donor of matching type. Then find a donor, Danny said. One of your people must match her. None of us do, the priestess said. Her voice was breaking. The royal bloodline is rare. Only 3 others in the entire empire share her type, and they are all on our. She will die before we can reach them. Danny's mind raced. He thought about everything he had read in those xenobiology files. Human blood and blood were different, but they shared certain proteins. The files mentioned that in theory, human blood could stabilize in an emergency. It would not replace their blood permanently, but it might keep them alive long enough for proper treatment. It had never been tested. No one knew if it would work. No one knew if it might kill them both. Danny looked at the princess. Her eyes were half open and her breathing was shallow. Her markings grew dimmer with each passing second. She was dying right in front of him. He made his decision. I can try something, he said. Human blood might be able to stabilize her. I can give her my blood directly. Aura stared at him with wide eyes. That is impossible. Human blood in a body. It would be contamination. It would be an abomination against our most sacred laws. Prince grabbed Danny's arm hard. You will not touch my sister with your primitive filth. I would rather watch her die with honor than see her polluted by human blood. Danny pulled his arm free. With respect, that is not your choice to make. It is hers. He leaned closer too. Her amber eyes focused on him slowly, like someone waking from a deep sleep. Princess, he said softly, I might be able to save you, but it means putting my blood in your body. It is dangerous and it breaks your laws. The choice is yours. Looked at him for a long moment. Her lips moved and her voice came out as barely a whisper. I choose to live. That was all Danny needed to hear. He opened his medical kit and began preparing for the most important procedure of his life. Danny worked fast. He had no time to doubt himself or second-guess his choices. The princess was dying, and every second mattered. He pulled out tubes and needles from his medical kit while Aura watched with a mixture of horror and desperate hope. Prince tried to stop him again. He grabbed Danny's shoulder and pulled him backward. I forbid this, the prince shouted. You have no right to touch royal blood. My sister would rather die than be stained by your kind. Captain appeared behind them. She was bleeding from a cut on her forehead, but her voice was calm and strong. Let him work, she said. Your sister gave her consent. Stand down or I will have you removed. Looked at the captain with pure hatred in his eyes, but he stepped back. He knew he could not fight the entire human crew. He stood in the corner and watched with his fists clenched at his sides. Danny turned back too. Her silver blood had soaked through the cloth that Aura was pressing against the wound. Her markings were barely visible now, just the faintest trace of blue beneath her skin. She was running out of time. He inserted a needle into his own arm first. He felt the sharp sting as it broke the skin. Then he connected the tube to a small pump from his kit. The pump would control the flow and make sure the blood transferred at a safe speed. This will hurt, he told. I am sorry. She did not answer. Her eyes had closed, and her breathing was so shallow that Danny could barely see her chest moving. He found a vein in her arm and inserted the second needle. Her silver skin was cold to the touch. He started the pump. His blood flowed through the tube, red against the clear plastic. It entered her body drop by drop. Danny watched her face for any sign of reaction. For a long moment, nothing happened. She lay still as death. Then her body jerked. Her back arched off the floor and her mouth opened in a silent scream. Her markings flashed bright blue and then shifted to something else. gold mixed with the blue like sunrise breaking through a night sky. Danny felt it too, a pulling sensation deep in his chest, as if something was reaching inside him and taking more than just his blood. His vision blurred. The room around him seemed to fade, and suddenly he was somewhere else entirely. He saw a little girl with silver skin running through a garden of crystal flowers. He felt her joy as she chased glowing insects through the air. He knew somehow that this was, years ago, before she became a princess burdened by duty. He saw her standing before a crowd of thousands, wearing ceremonial robes that seemed too heavy for her small shoulders. He felt her loneliness as she realized that no one saw her as a person anymore. They only saw a symbol. He saw her father, the emperor, teaching her to hide her emotions because rulers could not afford to be weak. He felt her heart breaking as she locked away everything soft and warm inside herself. And then was inside his memories too. She saw a small house with a red door and a garden full of tomatoes. She saw a woman with kind eyes and flour on her hands, baking bread in a kitchen that smelled like home. She felt the love that filled every corner of that simple place. She saw Danny as a young man, holding his mother's hand in a hospital room. She felt his grief as the machines went quiet and the hand in his went cold. She understood why he became a healer, why he needed to save people, why he could not stand by and watch anyone die if there was something he could do. The visions faded. Danny gasped and found himself back on the observation deck. The pump was still running, but he felt weak now. The room was spinning and his hands were shaking. Aura was staring at with tears streaming down her face. The princess was breathing again. Her chest rose and fell steadily. Her markings glowed with new strength, but they were different now. The pure blue had changed to blue mixed with threads of gold, like rivers of sunlight running through an ocean. "It worked," the priestess whispered. "By all the stars, it worked." Danny tried to smile, but his body had nothing left to give. The pump had taken too much. He reached over and stopped the flow, then pulled the needle from his arm. Blood dripped from the wound, but he did not have the strength to bandage it. He collapsed beside the princess. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was eyes opening. They found his face, and for one brief moment he felt something through a connection he did not understand. Gratitude, confusion, and something else that had no name. When Danny woke up, he was in the medical bay. Soft light filled the room and machines beeped quietly beside his bed. He tried to sit up, but his body felt like it was made of stone. "Rest," a voice said. He turned his head and saw Aura sitting in a chair beside him. Her old face looked tired, but there was warmth in her eyes that had not been there before. "How long?" Danny asked. His voice came out rough and dry. 12 hours, she said. "You lost a great deal of blood. The human doctor says you nearly died." Danny closed his eyes. "The princess. She lives because of you." He felt relief wash through him. It had worked. Against all odds, against everything he knew about medicine and biology, it had actually worked. "There is something you must know," Aura said. Her voice grew heavy with emotion. "What you did was more than a simple transfusion. Blood carries our essence, our spirit, our very being. When your blood mixed with hers, it created a bond." Danny opened his eyes again. "What kind of bond?" The priestess stood and walked to his bedside. She looked down at him with an expression he could not read. "You and the princess are now connected. Your blood flows in her veins. A part of you lives inside her. By our most ancient laws, you share what we call a life debt. It cannot be broken by distance or time. It cannot be undone by any power in the universe." Danny did not know what to say. He had saved her life, and that was all he wanted to do. He had not asked for anything in return. He certainly had not asked to be bonded to an alien princess. "What does this mean?" he asked. Aura knelt beside his bed. Tears fell from her eyes and landed on the blanket covering his chest. "It means that by saving her, you have tied your fate to hers forever. Where she goes, you must follow. When she suffers, you will feel her pain, and if she dies, a part of you will die with her." She reached out and took his hand. Her grip was surprisingly gentle. "It also means that you have given my princess something no one else could give her. You have shown her that compassion exists in the universe. You have shown her that not everyone wants something in return for kindness." Danny lay there in silence as the weight of her words settled over him. He had come on this mission to help build peace between two species. He never imagined that peace would begin with his blood in the veins of a princess who once looked at him like he was nothing. But the universe rarely asked permission before changing everything. 3 days passed aboard the Starboard Hope. The ship continued its journey toward while repairs were made to the damaged observation deck. Danny spent most of that time recovering in the medical bay. His body was weak, but it grew stronger with each passing hour. He could feel now, not her thoughts exactly, but her presence. It was like a gentle warmth at the edge of his mind, always there, impossible to ignore. When she was calm, he felt peace. When she was troubled, he felt a distant storm building somewhere inside his chest. He wondered if she could feel him too. On the morning of the 4th day, she came to see him. The door to the medical bay opened, and there she stood. Her silver skin caught the light, and her markings glowed with that strange new color, blue threaded with gold. She looked stronger than before, but there was uncertainty in her amber eyes. "Human," she said, then she paused. "Danny Cole, may I enter?" He nodded, "Of course." She walked to his bedside and stood there in silence for a long moment. Danny waited. He could feel her emotions shifting through their bond. Gratitude battled with pride. Curiosity fought against years of training that told her to show nothing. "I owe you my life," she finally said. "This is not a debt I take lightly." "You do not owe me anything," Danny replied. "I am a healer. Saving lives is what I do." Tilted her head slightly. "You risked everything for someone who treated you as lesser. Why?" Danny thought about the question. He thought about his mother and the lessons she taught him. He thought about the hospital where she died and the promise he made to himself that day. "Because you needed help," he said. "That was enough." Something shifted in her expression. The coldness that had always been there began to crack, just a little. "I can feel you," she said quietly. "Your presence in my mind, it is strange. Not unpleasant, but strange. Like hearing a song in a language I do not understand." "I feel you too," Danny admitted. "I know when you are worried. I know when you are sad. I cannot read your thoughts, but I can sense what you feel." Looked away. "Then you know that I am conflicted. My people have laws about blood purity that go back thousands of years. What we have done, what you have done, it breaks every rule I was raised to follow." "Do you regret it?" Danny asked. She turned back to him. "I regret nothing. I am alive because of you, but my people will not understand. My father will not understand." She was right to worry. Later that day, a communication arrived from the emperor had learned what happened to his daughter. He demanded to speak with her immediately. Danny watched through the window of the medical bay as the call took place in the conference room. He could not hear the words, but he could feel some emotions through their bond. Fear, defiance, love for a father who might never look at her the same way again. Ambassador filled him in afterward. The emperor was torn. He loved his daughter and was grateful she survived. But the traditionalist factions in his court were outraged. They called Danny's blood a pollution. They demanded that he be executed for corrupting the royal bloodline. "Executed," Danny repeated. The word felt unreal. Nodded grimly. "They want your head, literally. Some of them are saying the princess should be stripped of her title and exiled. There is talk of civil war." Danny sat with that news for a long time. He had saved a life, and now people wanted to kill him for it. He had connected two hearts, and now empires might fall because of it. Prince made his own feelings clear. He came to the medical bay that evening with 2 guards behind him. His markings pulsed with angry red light. "You have ruined everything," he spat at Danny. "My sister was supposed to lead our people into a golden age. Now she is tainted. Now she is bound to a human. The throne will never accept her." "Then the throne is wrong," Danny said calmly. Stepped closer. "You do not understand our ways, you never will," was perfect, pure. She was everything our people needed, and you destroyed that in a single act of arrogance. "I saved her life. You should have let her die." The words hung in the air between them. Danny felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. He could sense somewhere on the ship, and he knew she could feel his emotions too. He did not want her to worry. "I will never apologize for saving someone who wanted to live," Danny said. "If that makes me your enemy, then so be it." Stared at him with hatred burning in his eyes. Then he turned and left without another word. Came to Danny again that night. This time she brought no guards and no ceremony. She simply sat in the chair beside his bed and looked out the window at the passing stars. "My brother wants you dead," she said. "I know. He is not alone. Many on my world share his views. I know that too." Turn to face him. "I will not let them harm you. You saved my life at great risk to yourself. You asked nothing in return. You showed me something I had forgotten existed in this cold universe." "What is that?" Danny asked. "Kindness without conditions." She reached out and touched his hand. Her silver fingers were warm now, not cold like before. Danny felt their bond strengthen at the contact. He saw flashes of her thoughts, and he knew she saw his. "There is an ancient law in our culture," she said. "The right of the shared heart. It was written in the oldest days before we became cold and proud. It says that those who share blood share fate. If my father wants to execute you, he must also execute me. For we are now one being in two bodies." Danny stared at her. "You would invoke that law for me." "I already have. My father received my message an hour ago." She squeezed his hand gently. "I told him that if he wants your head, he must take mine as well, and I do not think he is ready to lose his daughter twice." Something warm bloomed in Danny's chest. It was not just from the bond. It was something older and more human than any psychic connection. "Thank you," he said. Stood and walked toward the door. She paused and looked back at him one more time. "We will face the tribunal together when we reach my world. I do not know what will happen, but I know one thing for certain." Her markings glowed bright with blue and gold light. "You showed me mercy when my own people would have let me die. I will show you the same." She left, and Danny lay alone in the quiet medical bay. Through their bond, he could feel her walking through the ship's corridors. He could feel her courage and her fear, all mixed together. He realized that saving her life was only the beginning. The real fight was just about to start. It was beautiful in a way that made Danny's breath catch in his throat. Crystal towers rose toward a purple sky. Gardens of glowing plants stretched between buildings that seemed grown rather than built. Everything shimmered with soft light, and the air smelled like flowers he had no names for. But Danny saw none of this from the streets. He was taken directly from the ship to a tower on the edge of the royal district. The rooms were comfortable and filled with elegant furniture, but the doors were locked from the outside. It was a prison dressed in silk. 2 guards stood at his door at all times. They did not speak to him. They barely looked at him. To them, he was not a guest or even a criminal. He was simply a problem waiting to be solved. Visited him on the first night. She came through a hidden passage that even the guards did not know about. Danny felt her approaching through their bond before she appeared in his room. "The tribunal begins in 3 days," she told him. "My father has agreed to hear our case before the full imperial court. It is more than I hoped for." "What are our chances?" Danny asked. Hesitated. "Honest answer, not good. The purists have been spreading stories about what happened. They say you forced yourself on me. They say you used human technology to poison my blood. Half the Empire believes I am already dead and that what walks in my body is some kind of human puppet. Danny felt sick. None of that is true. Truth does not always matter. Fear is stronger than truth, and my people have feared contamination for 1,000 years. She spent the next 3 nights teaching him about culture. She explained the ancient laws and the sacred traditions. She told him which phrases to say and which gestures would show respect. She prepared him as best she could for the battle ahead. During those nights, their bond grew deeper. When slept in her own chambers, Danny dreamed her dreams. He saw the weight she carried as heir to an empire. He felt her loneliness in a palace full of people who saw only her crown. And she dreamed his dreams too. She walked through his memories of Earth. She tasted his mother's bread and felt the sunshine on a summer afternoon in Ohio. They came to know each other completely. Not just facts and history, but the shape of each other's souls. Ambassador came to visit on the second day. He looked worried and tired, with dark circles under his eyes. "I need to warn you," he said quietly. "I have been investigating since we arrived. Something is wrong here. Prince has been meeting with a group called the Purists. They are extremists who believe any contact with other species is dangerous." "Told me about them." Leaned closer. "It goes deeper than politics. I intercepted a communication last night. They are planning something, an attack. They want to kill both you and the princess and make it look like an accident." Danny felt cold spread through his chest. "Are you sure?" "I am sure enough to be afraid. I was trying to warn Captain when Purist agents grabbed me. They held me for 6 hours before I escaped. They are organized, Danny. They have people everywhere." "Did you tell?" Shook his head. "I cannot reach her. Her chambers are too well guarded. You are the only one I could get to." After left, Danny tried to warn through their bond. He pushed his fear and worry toward her, hoping she would understand. He felt her confusion, then her concern, then her determination. She understood. Something was coming. The day of the tribunal arrived under a blood-red sunrise. Danny was dressed in formal human clothing that Ambassador had brought for him. Guards escorted him through the palace corridors toward the great throne room. The room was massive. Thousands filled the galleries, their markings creating a sea of colored light. At the far end sat the emperor on a throne of living crystal. He was old but powerful, with markings that glowed like molten gold. His eyes found Danny immediately, and Danny felt the weight of judgment in that gaze. Entered from another door. She wore ceremonial robes of white and silver, and her blue-gold markings shone brighter than ever. She walked to stand beside Danny, and he felt her presence strengthen him through their bond. "We face this together," she whispered. High Priestess Aura stood before the throne and began to speak. She told the story of what happened aboard the Starboard Hope. She explained the transfusion and the bond that resulted. She invoked the right of the shared heart and asked the Emperor to show mercy. The Emperor listened in silence. When Aura finished, he raised his hand to speak. That was when the first explosion hit. Fire and smoke erupted from the gallery above. Screams filled the throne room as fled in every direction. More explosions followed, ripping through the walls and ceiling. Chunks of crystal fell like deadly rain. Danny grabbed and pulled her close. Through their bond, he felt something strange. His senses were sharper than they should have been. He could feel danger approaching before it arrived. He saw the assassin a heartbeat before anyone else did. In black robes was running toward them with an energy weapon raised. The barrel glowed hot and ready. Danny did not think. He threw himself in front of just as the weapon fired. The blast hit him square in the chest. Pain exploded through his body like nothing he had ever felt. He fell backward into his arms. But something happened in that moment, something no one expected. Screamed and light erupted from her markings. Golden light mixed with blue, brighter than the sun, forming a shield around them both. The second blast from the assassin hit the shield and dissolved into nothing. The third blast did the same. Guards finally reached the assassin and brought him down. More guards formed a circle around Danny and the explosion stopped. The smoke began to clear. Danny lay in his arms. His chest burned with agony. Blood soaked through his formal clothes, red and human against the white fabric. His vision was fading at the edges. "No," whispered. Her voice shook with emotion he had never heard from her before. "No, you cannot die, not after everything, not for me." Danny tried to speak, but his voice would not come. He could feel her fear through their bond. He could feel something else too, something warm and desperate and true. "I will save you," said. Tears fell from her amber eyes and landed on his face. "As you saved me, I swear it." Through the haze of pain, Danny felt her love. Not just gratitude anymore, not just duty or honor. Love, real and powerful and terrifying in its depth. His eyes closed and darkness took him. But through the bond, he could still feel her holding on to him, refusing to let go. Danny drifted in darkness. He could not feel his body. He could not see or hear or touch anything. There was only the void and a distant warmth that he recognized as. She was holding on to him through their bond. She refused to let him slip away into death. Her will was like an anchor, and he clung to it with everything he had left. Time had no meaning in the darkness. It could have been minutes or days or weeks. He simply existed in that space between life and death, waiting. Then the light came back. Danny opened his eyes slowly. The ceiling above him was made of living crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. He was lying in a bed that seemed to be carved from a single piece of white stone. Machines hummed quietly around him, their designs strange and beautiful. "He wakes," a voice said. Danny turned his head and saw healers in white robes standing nearby. They looked at him with expressions he could not read. Behind them, standing against the wall with her arms crossed, was. She was at his side in an instant. Her hand found his and held tight. "You survived," she said. Her voice was rough with exhaustion and emotion. "The healers said it was impossible. The wound should have killed you within minutes." "What happened?" Danny asked. His voice came out as a whisper. "You happened. Your blood in my veins created something new. When I used my abilities to shield us, some of that energy flowed back to you through our bond. It kept you alive until the healers could work." Danny remembered the golden light erupting from her markings. He remembered the shield that stopped the assassin's blasts. "Your abilities," he said, "they are different now." Nodded. "Human blood changed me. The healers say our bond created something that has never existed before. My powers are stronger. I can sense emotions from anyone nearby, not just you. And when we touch, I can share that strength with you." She squeezed his hand and Danny felt warmth flow through his body. Some of his pain faded. Some of his strength returned. "We saved each other," he said. "Yes, we did." The door opened and more people entered the room. Ambassador came first, his face showing relief that nearly brought him to tears. Captain followed with Aura beside her, and behind them all came the Emperor himself. The ruler of the Empire walked slowly to Danny's bedside. His golden markings glowed bright, and his amber eyes studied Danny with an intensity that was almost painful. "I watched you throw yourself in front of my daughter," the Emperor said. "I watched you take a blast meant for her heart without hesitation. You did not think. You did not calculate. You simply acted." Danny said nothing. He did not know what to say. "I have ruled this empire for 60 years, the Emperor continued. "I have seen countless beings claim to act with honor. I have watched them scheme and lie and betray. I learned to trust no one, to believe in nothing but power and control." He reached out and placed his hand on Danny's shoulder. The touch was gentle, almost fatherly. "You showed me something I had forgotten. You showed my daughter. You showed my entire empire. Compassion without conditions. Courage without reward. Sacrifice without hesitation." His voice grew thick with emotion. This is what humanity brings to the stars, not weapons or technology or conquest, but heart. The emperor straightened and addressed the room. Prince has confessed to organizing the attack. He believed that killing the princess would save our bloodline from contamination. He was wrong. He will face justice for his crimes. Danny thought of his hatred and his certainty that he was doing the right thing. Even villains believed they were heroes in their own stories. The purist movement is broken, the emperor continued. Their leaders are in chains. The people saw what happened in the throne room. They saw a human risk everything to save their princess. The lies they were told could not survive that truth. He turned back to Danny. The tribunal is over. You are not guilty of any crime. Instead, by my authority as emperor, I declare you a hero of the empire. You are the first human to ever hold this title. May you not be the last. Cheers erupted from the people gathered in the room, and from the crowds Danny could hear outside the windows. The sound washed over him like a wave. 3 days later, Danny stood in the throne room again. This time there were no explosions, no assassins, no fear. The room was filled with dignitaries from both Earth and the ambassador and the emperor signed the peace treaty while thousands watched. Stood beside Danny throughout the ceremony. She wore robes of blue and gold now, colors that matched her changed markings. When the treaty was complete, she addressed her people. For too long, we looked at other species and saw only threats, she said. Her voice carried through the silent room. We built walls around our hearts and called it wisdom. We feared contamination because we feared change. She took Danny's hand in front of everyone. This human changed me. His blood flows in my veins. His courage lives in my heart. And I am better for it, stronger, more complete. He did not contaminate me. He saved me in more ways than one. She looked out at the sea of silver faces watching her. Let his example be our guide. Let kindness without conditions become our new tradition. Let us open our hearts to the universe and see what wonders we might find. The applause lasted for a long time. That evening, Danny stood at the window of his new chambers in the palace. He was no longer a prisoner. He was an honored guest, free to stay or leave as he chose. The starward Hope waited in orbit, ready to take him home if he wanted. Found him there, watching the crystal towers glow under a purple sky. "Will you stay?" she asked quietly. Danny thought about Earth. He thought about the small house with the red door that no longer had anyone waiting inside. He thought about the life he had left behind and the life that waited ahead. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. Moved closer until she stood beside him at the window. Through their bond, he felt everything she could not say. Her hope, her fear, her love that had grown from a seed planted in blood and sacrifice. "I want you to choose freely," she said. "Whatever you decide, I will accept, but I hope you will stay. I hope we will face the future together as we face death together." Danny looked at her. He saw the princess who once looked at him like he was nothing. He saw the woman who invoked ancient law to save his life. He saw the soul that had touched his own and changed him forever. He took her hand. "Then I will stay." Smiled, and her markings blazed with light. Blue and gold danced together like the union of two hearts that had found each other across the vast emptiness of space. Later that night, the starward Hope departed for Earth. Captain and ambassador waved farewell from the observation deck. They carried with them a treaty that would change history and a story that would inspire generations. Danny watched the ship shrink to a point of light and vanish among the stars. He stood at a different window now, in a palace made of crystal, on a world far from home. But he was not alone. Stood beside him, her hand in his, their bond humming with warmth and promise. Some connections were written not in treaties or laws, but in the blood that flowed through two hearts beating as one. Danny understood that now. He understood that home was not a place. It was a person. It was the feeling of belonging somewhere with someone completely. He had found that feeling in the most unexpected way, and he would never let it go.